I've been noticing something with a lot of space games recently, and it's one of those things that once you see it, it's very difficult to ignore. You could be mining resources, expanding outwards, perhaps building something quite large, and it can all seem like it's working very well indeed. But then you realise that no matter how much you grow, the world around you doesn't really change, and nothing scales with your success. The bigger you get, the less the game notices that you're there. And that's where things start to really feel a little off to me, because you can keep on expanding, you can keep on improving, you can keep on leveling up, but the game world doesn't really go along with you. That's all about to change though, as there's one game in particular that builds itself entirely around the opposite idea. And that's where the more successful you become, the harder the game world starts to push at you. And I wanted to talk about this today because I really feel it points towards a potentially very good game. The game in question is called Starminer, and it's from a studio called Good Games. It will be available to start playing in early access in May, and I think there's something very special going on here. Actually, I had hands-on with it a little over a year ago. It's probably come quite a long way since then, and on the surface, what you've got here is a modular space game. You're out there mining asteroids, you're building stations, you're constructing ships all piece by piece, and expanding outwards across 3 separate star systems. In other words, building a massive empire for yourself, and you sitting there at the core of it. And listen, I get what you're thinking here. Some of you may well be thinking you've tried a game like this before, but Starminer is genuinely trying something different. With the game then, you've got the choice. You can build a smaller mining operation, or you can keep expanding and build that massive, sprawling industrial empire. The game itself will respond to you in either event, and that's in quite strong contrast to what we see in other games. In other games, the environment is generally static. You might have threats out there, if there are any at all, and they tend to be scripted or sometimes random. But what is not happening is that they don't really know who you are or what you've been doing during your play session. Now, Starminer has a very different approach to this because it has a system that the developers call heat. And heat is, in simple terms, how visible you are to the rest of the universe. The more you mine, the more you build, the more you accumulate, the higher your heat signature actually rises. And once it reaches a certain threshold, you start getting noticed by pirates and eventually by alien factions. And yes, this might sound like a fairly standard escalating threat system, but there is a lot more to it because Starminer is all about depth and complexity when it comes to the game mechanics. What the developers have done here is wired the whole escalating system, the heat system, directly into the economic loop. So that means the same activities that make you stronger, such as mining, production, and accumulating all your resources, are the same very activities that can also put you in danger. In other words, there's no way to get bigger without also becoming more visible to the threats around you. And that means, you can probably guess what it really means, because it really does change what it means to play this type of game. In a normal game like this, every decision is about efficiency, it's about improving, it's about getting more money. But in Starminer, each of those decisions can come back and kind of push against you. They can kind of bite you. I actually like this idea of this type of depth because it feels a lot less random. It starts to make the game feel like it is actually a real reactive universe. And think of some of the other space games out there you've played and probably seen this in a lot of other games as well, whether it's just a building game, whether it's an RTS game, or even an RPG or FPS. You reach a certain point, a certain activity, maybe you get a new weapon, a new vehicle, or you build a specific base, and then suddenly there's combat because that's the moment that the enemy is scripted to appear. And then you have to spend your time either attacking or defending. With Starminer though, defense is kind of different because it's baked in to the economic loop, and it's done so right from the beginning of the game. For example, you might be building that mining empire up and you'll have to decide whether you're going to spend mass on armor or whether you're going to spend it on mining rigs. It's very difficult to actually do both, or you might be able to, but you trade efficiency or power. Also, talking of power rooted to weapons is power that's not being rooted to production. And that means you're always weighing off decisions against yourself. Which way do you want to go? Do you want to optimize for mining, trading and efficiency at the expense of perhaps being weaker long term, or do you want to put all your focus into combat and therefore perhaps have less money? And this really does seem to be the central focus that the developers are aiming for with Starminer. The idea that mining and the whole visibility system, the heat system, the idea that everyone around you might be able to see what you're doing, these two things are fundamentally tied together. And And that's also very clear in the game's different modes. You have a campaign, a sandbox, and a survival mode. There are 3 different ways of playing the same simulation. For example, the campaign gives you all the framework of the game. The sandbox, meanwhile, lets you push the whole systems without all the narrative problems, all the narrative guardrails and the story that's there, so you can just keep on building. And the survival is, well, I guess we could say it's all about pressure. It's the version of the game where everything's potentially at its more aggressive, or its most aggressive. It's really going to be quite a challenge for you. So depending on your playstyle, there is an option here for you. If you're the type of player that really likes the environment to challenge you, then you might want to go for survival. And if you tend to prefer the more chilled, relaxed type of building, then the sandbox is likely to be the option for you. And let's not forget the story mode is also there. So in principle, this is an approach I really like, and I really hope it plays out in the way I'm imagining it to play out. And at least on the hands-on experience I had a while ago, it certainly seemed to bear fruit. And it's an idea that you see in a lot of games. Well, it's just absent in a lot of games, to be perfectly honest, where you're out there in a galaxy that feels kind of, well, it's alive, but it's alive independently of you. We see this in games like Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen. They're rich galaxies, they're rich game worlds, but they continue with or without you. You don't really feel as though you actually matter in the grand scheme of things. Other games, meanwhile, like X4, are very different because these really do build around you. And to be perfectly honest, I feel there's not enough space games in that type of category. Starminer then does seem to very much fit that category. And here's my reasoning on that. Here's why I like that type of game. In games like X4, you'll be out there spending a lot of time building. That's a huge part of it, building up your empire. There might be a big fleet, or it might be stations, it might be a massive economic empire, whichever is your chosen approach for that game. And ultimately, that will have an impact on the universe, and the universe will then start relating or retaliating or trading with you. It actually, well, you actually feel as though you're a big part of that game world. Starminer is in the same camp here, but it appears it's taken that different approach. Rather than the game working with you, it seems that it's actually going to start working against you. Not in the sense of a game that's buggy or poorly designed and just you've got to fight to achieve whatever you want, but rather in the sense that you've got to fight to maintain your location in that universe. So that means we've got a living, breathing universe, but in a very different sense to what we've seen in something like X4 or Elite. So with that in mind, I'm very curious to get hands-on with the game again. Like I say, it will be available in early access from May. Let me know what you think of all of this in the comments section below, because I'd love to hear from you. And also, if you're interested in a bit more of a deep dive, although it is a little bit out of date at this point, do check out my hands-on experience with Starminer that I'll link on screen right here. I'm sure a lot of things have changed since that point, but it should give you a good idea of what the game is all about. Thanks for watching this video all the way through. Do take care, and I'll catch you next time.